Welcome all. We are in the process of getting everybody admitted. Sorry about that.
Okay, come on. Let's do it.
Welcome. Everyone is in the process of
coming. Do it. Come on, Charlotte, teach us. Time for yours.
We are going to.
It's fine. It's gonna take them a couple minutes. Do it. Come on. We're ready. Come on, let's do it. It's fine. Please.
All right. Welcome all. Amy, I have just muted everybody in one foul swoop, which will help as we're all getting settled in, but you will need to unmute yourself in a moment, Amy. Welcome all. My name is Erin Lurie, and I am the head of adult audiences at Hillwood Estate Museum and Gardens. We are so thrilled to be with you today. Hillwood is absolutely gorgeous this time of year. I was in briefly this morning and was completely enthralled with the tulips in bloom and how gorgeous the cutting garden is right at this moment. So it is a great time to be thinking about spring and enduring spring. It is also a lovely moment to think about Hillwood's newest exhibition, which are the porcelain flowers of Vladimir Kanevsky. So that is where we take our inspiration today. I am thrilled to be virtually with friends near and far. Those of you in the DC area, we do invite to come to Hillwood soon and see both the porcelain flowers and the gardens for yourselves. We do currently require timed tickets and advanced reservations. Masks are required at all times, regardless of vaccination status, all of those good things that you would like to see. But it is a great time to get out and explore Hillwood. Some quick notes about today's class. Amy is going to walk us through a beautiful arrangement, and she will stop, and there will be plenty of opportunities for you to ask questions. Please submit those through the chat feature, and I will make sure we get to all of them. Towards the end, we will invite anyone who would like to turn on their camera and share their arrangement with us. You are welcome to leave your camera on as you work, or to work with your camera off and then come on for the big reveal at the end. So with that, I am now going to invite Amy Wilber, who joined Hillwood in 2016 as our floral and event decor designer, to take it away.
Great, thank you, Erin, and welcome everyone. This is going to be, I think, a really fun workshop for today. One of the reasons is I love always trying to have something that is a theme that I'm basing the arrangement off of. So again, like Erin had mentioned today, it's going to be based off our Kanevsky exhibit, and he did all of these beautiful porcelain flowers that are scattered throughout the mansion. And so I was looking through the catalog, but then also when I went into the mansion to actually see the pieces, I was really inspired by certain flowers that he used. So I wanted to take those flowers and use that as the inspiration for the arrangement that we're going to do today. So one of the things that I thought was just absolutely beautiful immediately when I was first looking through some of the pictures were the clematis that he did. So clematis, I'm going to pull one of these gals out, are really kind of fun. They have, some nice leafy moments to them, but then there's also the flower itself. So I was thinking something like this is kind of a fun flower to use, because you can use it with its greenery and almost use it as a green, or you can remove all of the greenery from it and then just have it focused on the actual flower. So I'm going to go over those two different things with the clematis as well when we start to get into arranging. But like Erin said, what we're going to do is just go step by step through the floral arrangement process. And again, I'm going to stop sort of at different points that I think is a good time for if anyone has any questions or they need to catch up or anything like that. And again, if there is something that's like pressing immediately, you can always just chat send Erin a message through the chat and she can just sort of come in and ask me what needs to be answered. So with all of that, I am going to start by first getting my chicken wire, and I'm going to prep it into my bowl. So this is, I just measured this. This is about 19 inches by about 7 inches in height. I'm going to make sure that the bottom is sort of together and then kind of scrunch this up into a ball. And I want to make sure that the chicken wire is at the bottom and it's sort of crossing over, because that's going to be the second point of contact for when your flowers and your stems are going into your container. So the container that we have today is a compote bowl. And it's, if you notice, it's a little bit shallow, and that's going to require that you really check on the water levels every single day. Okay, so I am going to squish my chicken wire in here. I have some clear floral tape. Take this down. I do a crisscross with my tape, but then I also like to go all the way around just to make sure that the tape is securely fastened. And as you can see, I am also working on a Lazy Susan, because I find this is really easy to sort of look at my arrangement from all sides at all times. So after I've gotten my chicken wire into my container, I'm going to do the most important thing, and I'm going to fill it all the way to the top with water. I don't have any floral food in my water. It's just regular tap water. But if you get some of those little floral packets, you're more than welcome to use those as well. The only time that we use floral food here is after we've just harvested our flowers. It's always in the bucket. So once they're immediately cut from the garden or from when they came in from the wholesale, that's the only time that we'll use the floral food, just to kind of perk them up. We don't use floral food in the mansion just because we don't want to, stain anything in there or get anything sticky on anything inside the mansion. And then, so just out of habit, I just never end up using floral food. But again, if you have it, definitely use it.
And Amy,
Okay.
Catherine just asked a question about how you determine the size of chicken wire for each container, because I've noticed that this is the first time we've heard the dimensions, which is great.
Yeah, so it was one of those things that I got feedback on. People are like, how do you know? I'm like, well, I don't really know. So a lot of times it's experimenting with the different sizes, but also you can kind of start to eyeball and know like how it's going to like crunch down to what size you need it to be. But I would say if you want to take it to like a mathematical type equation, that maybe it's 3 times the size of the diameter. I don't know. Math was never a strong skill of mine, so don't take my word on that. But yeah, again, you're going to kind of like look at it, and it's always better to have like a little bit more chicken wire than less chicken wire.
Excellent. And Aria just asked if the container, she said she noticed that the bowl is kind of cooler to the touch, and asked if that is something that is helpful to the arrangement in any way, or just a quirk?
Just a quirk, I think, because it's ceramic, maybe, and it's a little bit chilly today, at least in DC. So I'm not sure, but no, it always is better to have cooler temperatures than a hot container. So I would say that actually is a bonus.
Excellent.
Okay, so before we start with the whole kit and caboodle, I just wanted to go over tulips real quick since we're going to be using them. So if you picked up your material from Hillwood today, you will notice that the tulips were wrapped in paper. And the reason that they were wrapped in paper and I didn't take the paper off of them was because I wanted them to stay closed and I didn't want them to grow too much. Because the one thing that's really fun and also a little infuriating at times with tulips is that they will continue to grow even after they've been cut. So they're always reaching for the light and they're always trying to find, how to get the most sunlight. So you'll see that they'll start to like curve and bend to where the light is. So that's why when they're still like wrapped up in this paper like this, it kind of keeps them contained and then they're not going to move as much. So the one thing you want to do is you're going to take the paper off of your tulips. And then when you're looking at your tulips, there's a lot of leaves and greenery on here. So what I like to do is peel away at least all but 1 to 2 of the leaves. Sometimes I'll even take off all the leaves, but sometimes I like to leave them on as well. So I will process my tulips by, again, stripping off all of these outside leaves. Again, so that you then just have the stem like that. And then, we're going to cut them at a nice 45-degree angle, and then we'll put them into our arrangement. But I just wanted to go over that really quick for the people who had picked up the flowers from Hillwood. The other thing I was going to discuss is the hyacinth that we're using today. You'll notice that the hyacinth that you got in your package, or maybe other people have noticed this as well, is that it had all that green stem, green leafy around it and like the big chunky stem. I just took all of that off. So I just have the stem and the hyacinth instead of all of the greenery with that. Again, the hyacinth will also start to grow a little bit, and you'll notice that that's going to open up a lot more as well. So it's a really lovely time that we can still have hyacinth. It's such a nice fragrance to it as well. Okay, so without further ado, let's start doing our arrangement. And today we're going to do an all-sided arrangement, which is the other reason why having a little lazy Susan is very helpful, so that you can then turn your arrangement around and see it from all sides. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to green up my container, and I'm going to green up about 75% of my container. This container is on the smaller side, so I'm going to keep this also on the smaller side, but it's going to be all-sided. So the typical rule of thumb is 1.5 times the container. So, we're going to have it maybe only come to about here. But you'll notice that we do have cherry branches, or some people might have different kind of blooming branches, and those will be able to keep up a little bit higher than the 1.5. But for the most part, for the greening, I'm only going to go a little bit more than 1 time the container. And you'll notice that the pittosporum, like this one, is pretty long. So I'm actually going to cut all of this down. And I'm going to have 3 now smaller parts. Again, because this is going to be an all-sided arrangement, I'm going to start in the middle, and I'm going to start greening from the middle and then go out. And again, if I have a big piece like this, I'm not going to use this long stem. I'm going to cut that down, and I might actually start to bring this out to the side a little bit. Again, you want to make sure that this is all, in the water of your container. Again, this is kind of big, so I'm going to cut these down. So then I'm going to start to turn it around so I can do the other side. And what this does with when you're greening beforehand, or as your first step, is it then creates a little bit more of an area for your stems to sit with your flowers, so that there's, you know, it's like if you're looking at the chicken wire, you know, it has relatively big holes. So the more you sort of fill in there, the easier it will be for the other stems and your blooms to then sit where you actually want them to go. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little bit more with my greenery. So that if you look, it's all, I would say this is a little bit more than 75% green. The one thing that you want to think about is, so I have this here, and then if you look on the back side, you see like the back side of it. So I'm going to make sure to put something here so that it covers up the backside area, so it doesn't look like it's all facing one direction. But as you can see, it's still kind of asymmetrical. I still have this line that's coming from the top down to the bottom like that. Okay, so before we get started with our flowers, does anyone have any questions about the greenery? Are we good?
I don't have any questions right now. I will let you know if someone is typing furiously at home.
Okay. All right. So the next thing that we're going to do is what I like to call putting in our architectural points, or where the highest point of the arrangement is going to be and the lowest point of the arrangement. So I'm going to do that with my cherry blossoms. So I have a branch here, and I'm going to step back so you can kind of see it in all of its glory. It's very big. So I'm not going to put this entire branch just into the arrangement. I'm actually going to break this down. And I think there's another one. Yeah. So I found this one. Look at that gal. She's all kind of curvy. So I'm actually going to use this. And I'm going to stick this into the arrangement here. So it's really coming quite far out, but again, it's very light and it's not going to then tip over the container. But I'm going to use this as my sort of nice curved shape. And then I have another one that's kind of like this, if you can see. And I'm going to use that one also. And I'm going to use this as my bottom part. So this will come out down here. You can kind of see, I don't know, it's a little bit hard to tell. I'll pull it back just a little bit. But you can see that I've made this like long kind of like sweeping curve to my arrangement. I'm not going to put any flowers out past these points, and actually most of the flowers are going to just be contained within the green space. But I just wanted to have this as sort of my guide. So I might come back later and put in some more cherry blossoms, but for now, that's all I'm going to do. So the next thing that I'm going to do is fill in with my hyacinths, because these are going to kind of take up a lot of area and space, and they're really dense. So I want to put those in before anything else so that they don't crush anything. So again, because I'm doing an all-sided arrangement, I'm going to start with this side, swing it around, and then go to the other side. Everything's cut at a nice 45-degree angle. And I want these, oh, they smell so good, to kind of nestle down here. I have 5 stems of these. So I'm actually going to take 2, and I'm going to have them be friends and be kind of close to each other. And as you can see, this one is now starting to come up towards the middle. I'm going to swing this around, and then I'm going to take this line of the hyacinth and I'm going to bring it down here. And And again, I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to have one gal down here. And then our friend kind of off to the side a little bit, but I don't want it to be like a straight line. So I'm actually going to put her a little bit more over this way. And then I have one more hyacinth that I think I'm actually going to then put right here. And I'm going to use these hyacinths in kind of a triangle. Okay, so I just sort of fix this up a little bit so it's a little bit more triangular like that. Do you guys have any questions yet about the hyacinth aspect of this? No? Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go.
I had a question about how many green pieces you put in there, going back approximately.
So I think there's about 10 stems of pittosporum. And so I used about half. I used about 5 stems of pittosporum.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Amy, do you have any advice or tips if hyacinths seem a little droopy?
So if they're a little bit droopy, you might want to cut them shorter. So that, again, like I said, the hyacinths also sort of tend to grow as they, start to age. So that if you do find one that is like a little bit like growing up and kind of like getting a little bit bendy, you might just want to cut it shorter and then stick it in. And again, because this is a smaller scale arrangement, having it be kind of short is not going to be an issue at all. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is go in with our phlox. So this is, it's really bright. I don't know if you can kind of see this or not. This is the phlox. And I like phlox because it's very much something that is in bloom right now here at Hillwood. And it's also very sort of reminiscent of hydrangea, but it's not, it's a little bit more, it's smaller and not quite as unruly as like a great big giant hydrangea, but it still has that same sort of textural quality and like the small little clusters of flowers. So I do like to use this whenever it is possible. I am, however, going to peel off some of these lower stems so that I just have a smaller area to work with. I'm going to hang on to these though. I might be able to use those at the end. Again, I'm going to cut this relatively short. And I'm going to start from the center of my arrangement. I'm putting everything in at a 45-degree angle. Nothing's going in straight up and down. And I want to sort of scatter this all around the arrangement. I have 5 stems of this as well. Again, nice, cut it kind of short. And I'm going to kind of do the same thing that I did. Whoopsie, with, I keep doing this backwards, sorry, with the hyacinth. So I'm going to put these in at a nice angle. Again, nice, relatively short cut. And I'm going to put these so that they're with their friends. So you've got 2 here. I'm going to put another one over here.
And Amy, I know you mentioned that both the hyacinths and the phlox you've got 5 stems of,
Yes.
which is part of that rule of odd numbers I have
Yes.
observed before.
Yes, one of the things that is, I don't want to say easy, I don't want to sort of diminish it, but a good sort of rule of thumb, if you're having issues with figuring out design, is using the rule of odd numbers. So 3, 5, 7, 9, because what you can do is start to triangulate those flowers off of each other so that you'll see here, for example, I have 3 together and I've made this nice little triangle shape. And I'm starting to do the same thing with the phlox as well. But because I don't have, enough for both sides for this odd pairing, I'm going to leave one side where I have the 3 and just the 2 here. So again, there's only 5 stems of flowers. On this side where I have the 2, this is where I'm going to put my 3rd one. So I have the 3. So again, it's still odd numbers, even though it's not necessarily odd numbers in the same flower, if that makes sense.
It does. And I like seeing how you're working kind of in lines from up over the top of the arrangement from one side to the other.
Yeah.
When I fall into the trap of kind of getting color blocked, where I put my hyacinths over here and my phlox up here, and you're doing, I feel like today you're leading us to that continuum between them.
Hopefully. So again, I have these like little stems left over. So if there are any that are particularly long, not like super short, like these gals, I'm going to just kind of tuck these in up here towards the middle. So it's like I've almost created another stem of the phlox. Okay, so right now I've got my hyacinth and my phlox and some of my cherry blossoms. So now I'm going to go in with my tulips. And so the one thing that I love about tulips is they're going to do their own thing when they want to. So the way you have your tulips in your arrangement today is not going to look like what they're going to do tomorrow. So for the most part, what I've always found with tulips is if you love the way the tulips look and the configuration of the way they are flowing, take a picture that day, because again, the next day, for the most part, you'll find that they're all sticking straight up because they're trying to find the light. And then you'll start to see that they're going to shift and grow and then start to droop out a little bit. So it's a really interesting process to see, from day 1 to day 5, what your tulips have done. And again, you can sort of stop that by going in each day, pulling out your tulips, cutting them down slightly, and then putting them back in. I personally like to see what the tulip's going to do because you never know what's going to happen. So I think that's kind of fun. But if you want it to be more controlled, that's what you would have to do, because otherwise they're just going to, again, continue to grow and do their own thing. So I really like the way this tulip is shaped for today. And I like the way this is going as well. So I'm going to mimic that curve with this tulip. Oops, and I just broke it. So now it's a little bit shorter. So I'm going to stick it here more towards the edge of the container so that it's going to come down slightly. And sometimes you can take your leaves if you want to and just sort of curl them and bend them a little bit. And the I'm going to balance this out by having this come out this way. See, I've created a line with my tulips. I'm going to take one of my tulips and I'm going to bring her really close in so that she's going to be nestled right in here kind of tightly. I'm going to cut this one kind of short. I'm actually going to take off that leaf as well. Put that in there. I'm going to do the same thing then on the other side. And sometimes what I like to do is just kind of have a look, see what I want. And I think that I want to take this a little bit higher. So I'm going to take this tulip and I'm going to have her come up and out a little bit. Yeah, so like that. I'm going to put another tulip down here. Like that. And then if I look at this side, I think I want to bring this up a little bit. So I'm going to have the tulip come up over here. Down a little bit. But I don't like this, what's happening right here. So I'm going to take this one and I'm just going to shorten it a little bit more so that it's not on that exact same line. I'm actually going to take off that leaf as well. There. Find that to be more appealing. Okay, so I have 2 more stems left. I had a total of 10 tulips. So I'm thinking that I want this to come out from here. Sort of, oopsie, broke that. Nestle that in there, like so. And then for my last tulip, I'm going to put her right in that bare spot right there. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of step back, look at this. And now that I'm looking at it, my cherry blossom is way too long. So I'm going to cut this down to adjust it. Yeah, much better. Same thing with this cherry blossom here. And that's the other thing that I love about chicken wire is how easily you can then take your stems in and out.
I was going to comment on that as well, Amy. It has been really fun to see you make choices and then adjust them today. And which goes with, I feel like you have a strong suit of working with whatever nature gives you, but not necessarily accepting it as complete, you know, shifting those leaves a little bit. Yep. Or tweaking them.
I like to suggest how nature should be doing it to the whims of what I want it to do. So I have some more cherry blossoms. So I'm going to go back in with those. And I'm looking at this side right here, and I think I'd like to add in a stem over here. I'm going to cut this one all the way down. And I'm actually going to put her in here. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with my Clematis. This is going to be my last touch, or sort of the whimsy, if you will. And I really think that there's a lot of greenery going on in here. So what I'm going to do with my Clematis is I'm actually going to pull off a lot of the greenery so that you're just going to have a few greenery leaves on there. And then once these open, there'll be more of the focal point of the Clematis. Instead of this, where you can see it's a lot of greens, this one, it's just a little bit of greens. Again, I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to take off the leaves. I'm going to leave a couple on. There's some weird little thing here, so I'm just going to snip that off. And then with the Clematis, I really want to make this almost the focal point of the floral arrangement. So I'm going to have this set out from the arrangement slightly, so that if you look at the arrangement, everything is down in this area, and then I want this to actually be up and out slightly from it, so that when they open up fully, they'll have their own space as well. So I'm going to leave these a little bit longer. So again, you can see from this perspective here how much they're kind of sticking up and out from the arrangement. And again, I'm going to go through. You can leave the greenery on if you want. I just personally, whoopsie, that's not good. I just want to have it be a little bit minimal green, because I feel like if there was too much green, it would then start to block out some of the other flowers. So again, I'm going to leave these a little bit on the longer side. That one broken, so I'm going to take that down. And I'm going to have it kind of stick out from the arrangement a little bit.
Amy, I know you mentioned that the Clematis will continue to open and bloom. We've talked a lot about how the Hyacinths and Tulips will continue to grow and shift. Aria asked if the Phlox is also something that will kind of continue to grow and change, or
the
whether
phlox will continue to grow, but the phlox will open up more. A lot of the phlox right now is still budded. So all those little buds that you see on the phlox, like this. So all of these then should open up. All right, so let's see. Going to, and again, like this is a really big piece of Clematis. So I'm actually going to take the top of it, separate it off, and then I'm going to use 2 parts of it. And I'm going to put this coming out over here, kind of on the longer side. Like that. And then I'm going to use this one. And I think I'm actually going to keep all of the greens on this one. And I'm going to put this down to the bottom of the arrangement. So again, that the greens aren't going to bother me as much, because you won't, it'll kind of hide a little bit of the mechanism, and it's not going to be blocking any flowers. So I've stuck that down in there. I don't know if you can see that or not. Yeah, there it is. So I have one more stem of clematis left. Definitely going to use it. I'm going to just kind of look here, see what's happening. And I noticed that I have a little bit of a bald spot right here. So I'm going to do the same thing with this clematis. I'm going to snip off the top. I'm going to take off these stems and I'm going to put some clematis right in this area. Like so, and then I have one more piece left. And I'm going to do the same thing where I leave the greens on it and put it down towards the bottom of the container. And then I'm going to have a little look-see at what we've done. And now I'm going to look down sort of at this level to see if I have any bald spots kind of at the bottom. And then I can go back in with my pittosporum and then just sort of fill in around the bottom where there might be some bald spots. So I've cut them all into these little tiny little pieces like this. And now I'm just going to go around the bottom edge and fill in so that I don't see any of the chicky wire.
Amy, I love how you always take the viewing angle into account. You've talked a lot about how the visitor center arrangement is unique because it's seen as much from above as it is from the front.
And yeah, and a lot of times I am leaving like a big bald spot in the VC arrangement at the back because it became too big and I couldn't see past it. And then when I bring it down, I'm like, oh, look at that big bald spot. And I have to like go back in and fill it with flowers. So I feel good about this with what I have done. I'm going to pull this back and I'm going to put up a little, I can't see.
That is great.
Can you see that?
That is perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna turn it around to the other side. So you can see that side of it. Is that good?
Lovely.
All right. So with that, again, this is a relatively shallow container. So I want to make sure that it's going to be watered every day. Always check those water levels. Again, if you want your tulips to stay where they are, you're going to have to like take them out, cut them and put them back in. Otherwise, you'll see, see if I can take a picture maybe on Monday of this, but you'll see that these tulips will be like much farther out and doing their own thing, which I think is fine because it shows that they've got a little personality after they've been cut. So I don't feel quite as bad, you know, chopping them down because they're still doing their own thing. All right, so are there any questions for me at this point?
So far, I just want to share that both Mary Slimp and Lem Laura have written in to say that it is gorgeous and that you have made a very complicated arrangement seem easy. So thank you for that. And thank you, Mary and Lem Laura and V and Kathy, everybody who's chiming in. We do really appreciate your questions and your comments. I think if there are no more questions, that we have reached one of my favorite parts of this program, which is where we get to do show and tell. So if anybody is finished and would like to share their arrangement or has a question, if they're still tinkering with Amy, please let me know. Let me see. Oh, Robin mentioned, Amy, that on Instagram you talked about how to manage daffodils. And can you share a little bit more about that?
Yes. So daffodils, I don't know if you noticed, but when you cut them or when you get them from the grocery store, there's always that kind of slimy residue that comes out from the stem, which is actually somewhat toxic if you're putting it into an arrangement with other flowers. If you're just doing all daffodils, you're fine. It's not an issue. But if you are trying to mix it in with other flowers, what I like to do is I cut them in their own container. So it's just daffodils in one container. And then I let them sit overnight. And then the next day, when I go to use them in an arrangement, I don't recut the stems. I use them as is. So sometimes it's a little challenging because I don't know what the length is going to be that I need it to be, but you can kind of like fiddle around with that. Or the other thing that I sometimes do is cut like 3 different lengths of daffodils. So I know that I have things that can go in different spots. But that's what I personally do. I read about it. Also, I had never known before that. I don't know if I've really run into any issues with arrangements not lasting because I've put daffodils in them, but I find that this method seems to work just fine.
Amy, Carol asked how long we can expect the clematis to hold up.
That's an excellent question. So I've been experimenting with this clematis from this grower for a couple of weeks now. That I did several different arrangements using this clematis. I've had the clematis last anywhere from a couple of days to 2 weeks. So I don't know. It's exactly the same. It's the same cultivar that I've been using. It's the same vendor. So I don't know, but I would say I'm hoping at least a week. But again, I've had clematis that opened up and it held on for like close to 2 weeks. So I'm hoping for that.
Fingers crossed for everyone. Feel free to turn on the air conditioning if we get another warm spot, keep it cool and going on. Kim, I'm so glad you just turned your camera on. I'm going to ask you to unmute because you asked an excellent question in the chat just a few moments ago, saying that you're struggling with very full chicken wire, but still feel like there are some bald spots.
So the one thing with the chicken wire, again, is that if you have sort of big openings of it, try and just put a couple more of the smaller stems, like the way when I cut this pittisporum. So it's like these thinner stems, and then you could do several of those and put those into that like one area that seems to be problematic. The other thing that you can do is always go in and you can kind of like smush the chicken wire around a little bit so that it'll open up just a little bit if it's too dense and clumped together.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, let's see. I know we've got a couple of folks who are ready to share. Maura, I'm going to ask you to unmute and add you here to the spotlight. Maura just mentioned in the chat that she is sharing her grandmother's porcelain flowers in addition to the live arrangement today.
I love it.
Yeah, so here they are.
Those are gorgeous.
Those are you wouldn't even know that they were porcelain. They're absolutely beautiful.
I want to say that they're probably from the 1930s.
Wow. Wow. Beautiful.
And your fresh arrangement also looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Good. Looks wonderful.
All right, I just got a question in the chat. I'm going to ask Teresa to unmute and join us on screen here in just a minute. But while I am clicking on various buttons behind the scene, wanted to share, we got a question about when Hillwood is open. We are open Tuesday through Sunday, 10 to 5. We do require those advanced reservations, and you can find out more about both the hours and availability, all of those good things on our website, hillwoodmuseum.org. All right, Teresa, it looks like you used some fun beauties there.
Thank you. Yeah, these are actually all flowers that are in my garden or in my yard. So lilies, azaleas, red buds, bluebells, cherry blossoms, ferns.
I love it. I love that you went and foraged to get the flowers as well. But it looks fantastic. And again, you know, it's one of those things. I think if you don't have the same flowers that we're using, it's always good to like think of, you know, okay, well, maybe I'll do a limited color palette. And so I like the fact that you also chose sort of the 3 limit color palette as well. It looks really lovely.
Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of, I didn't know what I was going to find. I didn't know what was going to be in bloom yesterday when I picked the flowers. So it kind of gives it a little bit of an element of randomness that you don't know what's going to be in bloom, and you don't know how it's going to look until you put it all together. But I'm happy with how it turned out. So thank you.
Yeah, wonderful.
All right. Let's see, it looks like Suzanne is also ready there. So I have just asked you to unmute and to add to the spotlight here.
Sure. This was my second class, and it was just as much fun as the first one. And I did learn, I used a Lazy Susan this time, which was much easier. And I'm normally very symmetrical, so I tried to embrace the asymmetrical look this time.
It looks beautiful. And the other thing I will say with tulips is, even if you are very, you know, doing things symmetrically, they won't allow that. They're going to do their own thing. And they'll, even if it is a symmetrical arrangement, they're going to just shoot off and do their own thing. So at some point it will be an asymmetrical arrangement anyways.
Right. Well, thank you very much.
Gorgeous.
Catherine, it looks like you are ready to share here, and that looks beautiful.
I think there might be 2 Catherines, but hi. Yeah, I'm very pleased with the way it turned out, and I love the I don't know if you can see them, but my branches are really long. And,
yeah,
and, I love that. I love the sort of wildness of that.
Yeah, that looks absolutely. It looks gorgeous. I love it.
Yeah, very happy. As always, it's always so much fun, Amy. Thanks so much for doing it.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad that you can join.
A highlight of the last year to be able to join you for these.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's been really fun to be able to connect with people this way.
Sarah Holden, I am asking if you can unmute and show us your beautiful flowers. Michelle Pearson just asked a great question about a refresher on the ratio of length of stem to the container.
It depends on the container. So with this container, because it's a relatively shallow base, I cut everything so that it would be touching the bottom of the container. So typically, like if it's a longer container, you don't necessarily need to do that. But when I was cutting cutting the tulips, I wanted to make sure that it was going to be all the way to the bottom of the container. So if I wanted my tulip to be coming out about here, I'm cutting it here because I want it again to be all the way touching down at the bottom of the container. So it's a little bit different than what we typically do, but my stems are a little bit longer because I was pushing them so that they would be all the way down at the bottom of the container.
Excellent. And for that overall height, you mentioned aiming for about 1.5 times the height. Perfect. All right. Elizabeth Oden, I'm going to ask you to turn on your sound. There we go.
I think we skipped over Sarah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where's Sarah? Here we go. I am so sorry about that.
Very good. Oh, well, no worries. This is our second class. The first time we've actually done it with the flowers. So it was really great to follow along, and the flowers are gorgeous. We went with a little bit more greenery. So my daughter helped me, Molly.
Yeah.
So it was a team project, but a little more greenery. We kept more of the leaves on, but gorgeous.
Good. No, of course. It's just personal preference, and I think it looks beautiful. So it's very English garden.
There you go.
All right, now I'm going to ask Elizabeth Oden to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with this one. And we did the one we did the previous month with the tropical flowers.
Yeah.
They lasted, like, a lot of them lasted like 2 weeks or more, actually. I just sort of kind of pulled some things out that weren't doing so well. It was just amazing. So, but I had a lot of fun because I feel more connected to spring flowers. I think I always feel very nervous about tropical ones. But anyway, so I tried to break out of my, I don't know if you can see it. I tried to break out of my, here, I have to put up a little bit. I tried to break out of my symmetrical desires and tried to go with that S curve. I don't know. I still always sort of struggle a little bit with it.
No, it looks beautiful. And again, you know, the tulips will force you out of a symmetrical composition anyways. So not to worry. It's going to do it on its own for you. But I think that you've really definitely accomplished the whole sort of S curve with your arrangement. It looks lovely.
Thank you. Thanks very much. It was a lot. This one was a lot of fun for me.
Good. And it smells great, I think.
I know. Is that the hyacinths? That's
It's
really
the
the most.
hyacinth.
Yeah, that's what I thought. The only trouble I had, and maybe some other people did too, is that with the thicker stemmed flowers like the hyacinths and the tulips, I think they would get caught sort of in between openings on the chicken wire, and they would split.
Oh,
They get the stem would get all crunched up. So a couple of my stems broke. So some of my tulips are in a little further than I wanted them because they're too short now.
Well, they'll grow. So
yeah, there we go.
All right, and Elizabeth, our friend Mary Slimp, cheers you on from the chat saying that they are gorgeous. JQ, can you share your arrangement with us?
Sure. So we struggled a little with this one. I think for the same reason the stems were a little thick. But I think it came out okay.
It's definitely one-sided.
Yeah, it's only one-sided.
That's fine. No, I think it looks fantastic. Yeah, it is a little bit tricky. Yeah. I think that the hyacinths and the tulips sometimes can be a little bit tricky with the chicken wire because they are kind of thick, but you know, they're pretty hardy. So even if the stem splits a little bit, they'll still be fine.
Oh, that's great. That's good to know. Thank you so much. We really enjoyed it.
Great. It looks wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, Trisha, it looks like you have some beautiful, are those Lisianthus in there?
Yes, ma'am. I also have some hellebores buried in there too that I got out of my yard.
Nice. Oh yeah, I see them. Beautiful.
They're kind of a greenish color.
Yeah.
Right in here. I used to just sort of fill in.
Yeah, I
thought about using lilies in place of the clematis, but lilies and I do not get along. I'm usually sneezing and eyes are itching.
Yeah, the clematis is also very sort of small and kind of delicate. So the lilies would have been a little bit big.
Yes.
If you were using that as like a substitute, but I think that the Lisianthus looks beautiful in there.
Yeah, I lucked out. The supplier had them, so.
Yeah, gorgeous.
And I used red buds because I can get those right out my backyard too.
Yep. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
I love it. All right, let's see. I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this correctly or not, but I'm going to ask Akvil to come and join us.
Yes.
Akvil?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, beautifully.
This is my second time and I'm a new member at Hillwood. And Amy, your lessons are really, really amazing and your arrangements are beautiful. So I'm just trying to, I didn't have the same material, so I had to work with what I was able to get.
Yeah.
But your arrangement is so beautiful and so inspiring. So thank you for the lessons.
Oh, thank you. And I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. It's very also English garden-y, which I love.
Thank you.
All right, I see you, Nancy. Don't worry, we are not going to forget anybody. We will add folks as we can. So thank you all for your patience. I love that we have so many folks willing to share with us today. And we will spotlight everybody. Oh, you were unmuted. Try one more time. There we go.
Okay. We had ranunculus as the flower that replaced a couple of the flowers. We were unable to get phlox, but we went with ranunculus. And well, we got the tulips and we used freesia as part of our.
Is that your cherry blossoms?
Yes,
oh, those are gorgeous. Yeah.
We scavenged them on our property.
Oh, very nice.
We did indeed.
Beautiful. I don't think the picture does it justice.
The colors are really cool.
Very nice.
But that's always so much fun. And thank you for teaching me about lazy Susans. The best.
Good. Very good.
Mine is a little crazy here. Lots of yellows and purples.
Well, I do love doing opposite colors. So again, like I chose this purple and orange, which are opposite ends of the color wheel. So I think that it's always an interesting combination when you take colors that you wouldn't necessarily think to put together, you put them together, and then you can just blend it all with like the greenery and then the white flowers or whatever. So I think it works out really well. Excellent. Very lovely job, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks for your help.
All right, Kathy Sykes, if you can join us. Oh, and your furry friend just on cue.
Yeah, I know. It's always pretty funny. Anyway, I had a hard time getting the right thing. So I too pulled from my garden and whatever I could find at American Plant. There's Pelly again. But I have some phlox, very little pieces. I was going to go outside and get some tulips that were more closed because the ones I was able to get are already way open. They'd probably be dropped petals by the next day. But I couldn't get some really good green, but I did get this fake thing. I guess it sticks with moss over it or something. Anyway, I just tried to get more green. And then I've got some eucalyptus again from my garden. And azaleas. Those were my fresh instead of cherry. But it's always fun to be with Amy, and she always does it.
And we miss you in the gardens, but
no, but soon we'll be back, right? Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, it's great. Thank you. And everyone's done such a beautiful job too.
Thank you. It looks gorgeous.
Thank you.
All right, Margaret, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hi, I so enjoyed this, and here is my creation.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this was really fun, and I'm so inspired, Amy, by your teachings and what you did, and I'm pleased with the result. I learned a lot. I hope that there'll be future flower arranging classes so I can invite my mom to join me.
Definitely, yes. We have a whole calendar of classes coming up, so.
Good.
Yes, and I will drop the information on our May workshops into the chat right now. We have 2 fabulous horticulture workshops. We have a May floral workshop with Amy on Friday, May 7th, which is just in time for Mother's Day weekend.
Exactly.
And later in the month, our Director of Horticulture, Jessica Bonilla, is leading a pollinator-friendly container garden workshop. And we'll be working with some new friends at Capital Bee Care to talk about local pollinators and urban beekeeping. So I'm really excited to add that element.
It's going to be fantastic.
Lisa Russell, I'm going to ask you to please join us.
Wow, it's kind of out of control, but I like it. It's very big.
That is big, but it's fantastic.
Thank you. It's lots of fun. It smells great. Thank you.
It's the hyacinth.
Yes.
And you know, our policy at Hillwood is more is more. So
yes, this is more
capture that.
Thank you.
Gorgeous, Lily.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. Kim, are you ready to share? Thank you all for your patience and for sharing your beautiful work with us. I appreciate. I do try my hardest to remember who went earlier from month to month when we have repeat visitors. So I'm not trying to favor you or seeing where the squares go, but thank you for sharing your arrangement, Kim.
You're welcome. I think it got better. This is my first time, so I wasn't able to do it as quickly, you know, as everyone else, but I think it's getting better and I'm definitely learning a lot. So I'll definitely continue.
Excellent. And one thing I should say, I always like to sort of preface is that I do this every week. So speed is something that comes naturally to me when doing any kind of floral design, but I certainly don't expect everyone to be done, you know, by this time, even if you want to go back and rework it, or you need to add more flowers in later or anything like that. We certainly don't want you to feel rushed at all in like the time that we've allotted, because I know that I can do it really quickly, but that's just because I do it every week. So I don't expect anyone else to.
You're kind of our Ginger Rogers because you are also often working backwards. I can't speak to your footwear today, so I don't know if you've got your high heels on to go with that.
All the time. That's what I wear in the gardens.
Absolutely. Jerry, I'm going to ask you to unmute and join us here on Spotlight.
Hello.
Hello.
Whoops. Can you see?
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
So I have really, this has been a saving grace for me during pandemic, because I have so enjoyed these classes, and in between I buy flowers at Trader Joe's and try to emulate some that we've done before. I have a question for you about the black containers that we pick up the flowers in. Mm-hmm. Would Hillwood recycle them if I brought them some back?
Sure.
Okay, I didn't know if there was a policy about reuse or anything.
Yeah, I mean, you know, at the very beginning of the pandemic, we're like, no, we can't have anything come in,
right?
You know, because you know we don't know, like, you know, the whole thing about like surfaces and all of that. But I mean, I think we've obviously all been learning over the last year that it doesn't, you know, that's not as that's not very, it's very low risk. It's not anything that we're worried about at this point. So if you do want to bring them back, I mean, of course you can always use them for whatever you need, but it is a lot of buckets after a while. So
well, I take them to Trader Joe with me. It's a lot easier to transport them.
Yeah.
May I ask a question about the tropical?
Sure.
I tried to slip my finger in, but I didn't have success with getting them to open.
The birds of paradise.
Yes.
You know, so I always like to test out the flowers, and we have it as an arrangement that we hold, you know, just to see how long it lasts as well. And there were two that didn't open for me either. So I think sometimes it's just
they're just too tight when they're cut.
Yeah. So I'm not really sure how to, you know.
I had some status that I saved from, and I was wondering about, would it add too much to put it into this arrangement just to?
No, I think if you were to put it down low, Like, so it was like a little bit closer in. And if you nestled it near the hyacinth, it would just sort of complement it for sure.
Okay. And one more thing about this arrangement, I also would agree with the participant who talked about the stalks, because they seem to bend, the split and bend.
Yeah.
And that's why you can see mine ended up pretty low.
And again, they'll they'll end up growing out a little bit, so they will start to come out from the container a little bit. But again, the stems of the hyacinth and the tulip are pretty sturdy, so even if they are slightly split, it's not gonna hurt the flower.
The other thing was the pieces of the cherry blossom that I had were really thick and was too weighty, so I cut them down and made them a little bit shorter, and I think it's not as dramatic, but it fills in. Thank you so much. I love doing these.
Good, excellent. Yeah, and again with the cherry blossoms, it's sort of it was a hodgepodge of super long, thick, skinny, so I cut mine down a lot when I put it into my arrangement.
Right. Okay. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Michelle, come and share your beautiful arrangement with us.
Hi.
Ooh, I love that you're using carnations.
Yes, we had lilies and mums and hellebores, vermiculus, and greenery. We think we made the stems too long, possibly, and we feel like we have some holes, but we're calling it good for now.
Well, I love that you used hellebores, first of all, because they're one of my absolute favorite flowers, and carnations, because carnations, I think, they get a bad rap sometimes, but they definitely hold up very well. And I think that they add a lot to an arrangement. So I'm really pleased with your choices. And also with those lilies, they're going to really open up and be quite big. So that'll take up a lot of space once those start to open. I think that's gorgeous.
Well, thank you.
Right, Khaki is going to join us on screen in just a moment.
There you go.
Ooh,
There.
you've got a classic still life right there.
It's all the wood in the background, but I didn't have any of the flowers. I thought I'd have more things open. The person who had lilies open in her arrangement from her yard, I'm totally amazed. But anyway, the narcissus, that's a double right there. You can see in the center that I put in anyway because I knew the poisonous rule, but hoping just one won't have dire consequences on the rest of them. And the tulip next to it that's so open in the deep color is mine. But I like the idea of the contrast with the pinkish orange that you had mentioned for the tulips. So I found those today to go, and the stock to tie in the pink, the purple and orange.
I think that the color palette certainly works very well. And I like that you added things in from your yard and then also things that you bought in. So it's fantastic.
Right. And when the azaleas open, it should be having another look to it. But I loved I loved seeing what you did and what the others did. And I haven't seen Clematis like that, but that's interesting the way
it's something everyone's like, that's Clematis. And it's not the same cultivar that you see growing outside, that's climbing up things.
Yes, the climb. Yeah,
this is very specific, it's very long, straight stems. So it's a whole different Clematis than what you're seeing outside. And it's a lot more hardy.
Could I ask a question too? Because I saved the flowers from the tropicals, and it looks like dark pittosporum that's there. And this is that what it was? I entered late last time for the tropicals, and
it was pittosporum. So the pittosporum that I used for today, except for in mine because I ran out, I didn't count properly, but it was a variegated pittosporum. But the one that I'm using actually right now is just the green, which is the same that was in the tropical arrangement as well.
Right, and then those two, my two willows that have sprouted were from that as well, which is fun. They're beautiful to use. So it's it's sort of lopsided, but anyway, I like the fact the laurel blooms add some texture and fullness.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you very
Fantastic.
much. Good inspiration for us. Thank you.
Madeline, you have been waiting very patiently. Would you like to come on and show something off?
I'm not very good at that. I don't know. Let's see. I can't do it. I'm sorry. Or maybe, let's see. No.
We have been learning a lot about camera work, and last month.
I can't do it. So I will have to learn because I intend to come back next time. I'm pretty satisfied with my arrangement, but I think I broke some rules. There are quite a few rules. I went quite wide. So I wish I could show it to you, but I think I will learn, and next time I will be able to participate fully. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing. I am going to ask Karen to join us on screen and ask her to unmute.
Hello. Why is that?
Hello.
Hi.
Oh, I see.
But I wanted to share because I got the stuff from Whole Foods and it worked out really well. We didn't this time didn't have the flowers, but the tropical was really great last time. So really, really great. There, I fixed it. There. So
ooh, I like the yellow tulips.
Yeah, so we got tulips and hydrangeas, and I think there's stock or phlox.
Yeah.
Stock. Yeah. And tulips, and then the eucalyptus on the side was the blooming branches. So
yeah, it's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
And one side, oh, and then I should mention, because it was a clear bowl, we had to figure out how to cover the chicken wire. I didn't realize it. I should have probably used the ceramic one we have. So next time I'll pay more attention.
Although I think like even with clear glass, like once you have the stems in and everything, a lot of times the chicken wire just sort of like fades into the background.
This one didn't do it as much as I would have liked, because I think the greenery was a little higher. Because sometimes the green can go over it. I've seen you do that, but this time it was a little bit higher. So we covered it kind of. So
it looks great though. No worries.
Thank you. This has been really fun. It's one-sided now because of that too. But thanks. Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much for joining us and for sharing your work. It has been a pleasure, as it always is, to spend Friday afternoon with friends near and far and celebrating a little extra beauty and spring. Again, those of you who are in the DC area, I really invite and urge you to come visit Hillwood soon. The flowers, both indoors and out, are absolutely gorgeous. Some of those, I know Amy mentioned the tulips and the hyacinths, are both inspired by some of Vladimir Kanevsky's flowers from the dining room and the breakfast room. So I invite you to come and see those, and I do hope that we'll see you all next month when we gather again virtually. Thanks so much and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.